All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be doing yet another comparison review. This time of two beers from the Southern Tier Brewing Company, and they are out of Lakewood, New York, and I have their IPA and their 2X IPA. So their IPA is an American IPA that comes in at 7% alcohol by volume and 60 IBUs, while their 2X IPA is a double IPA that comes in at 8.2% alcohol by volume and 80 IBUs. At the time of review, their IPA is approximately 2 months old, and it also has a best by date of November 29th of 2024, while their 2X IPA is just over 6 weeks old, and it also has a best by date of December 11th of 2024. Essentially, the 2X IPA is 12 days fresher than the regular IPA. So, I haven't reviewed either of these beers, which is wild because here in the Buffalo, New York area, these are very prominent beers and have been for many years. IPA, one of the first hop forward beers I ever had, and 2X IPA, one of the first double IPAs I ever had. And I've had these beers numerous times over the years. Last time I had these two, November of 2021, so almost 3 years ago. I had them on tap at the Buffalo tap room that Southern Tier now has by the KeyBank Center, where the Buffalo Sabres of the NHL play. And IPA on Untappd, I gave it 3.5. I gave the 2X IPA a 4, and that's kind of where these have landed over the years. Of course, I had them on tap. I had a couple different flights and a couple different pours, so I guess really not a true indicator of what I think. So, I have no idea what the hops are in the IPA. In the 2X IPA, I'm pretty sure it's Citra, Simcoe, CTZ, Cascade, and Centennial. I'd imagine the base is kind of similar, but yeah, we'll see. And we will do a cuvee at the end. I didn't bring an extra glass, but we'll just mix them together because I've had these beers numerous times, so no big deal. So we're going to crack them both open. I'm not going to do the dual pour because I always fuck it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a pour down the middle here. Fuck it. And I still spill beer because I'm fucking, what is wrong with me? How do I not know what's going on? Are you fucking Joe? Come on, dude. I fucking poured it like it, I don't understand. Help me. Please help me. And we're going to throw this over here like that. And then we will pour this one. Throw this over here like that. Pour this one in. Try to do similar pours if I can. Probably something like that. We'll see. If I have to pour a little bit more in, I will. But yeah, that's how we're going to roll for these two. So, kind of similar, maybe a little bit more here, and we're good to go. Yeah. Throw this back over here like that. And how do these look? Very comparable. Is there still remnants from me spilling it? I know none of you care. You're probably like, dude, what the fuck's your problem? There's a list, okay? There's a list. Pouring beer, definitely near the top. Anyway, so first things first. Not sure how it's gonna come off on camera. This is definitely darker. This has that old school, deeply burnt orange kind of, American IPA look to it, and this has a paler look to it. This is more of like a lighter orange color. They both have nice heads that I would say are kind of in the 1 to 1.5 fingers, creamy looking, off-white, somewhat soap sudsy, but pretty much creamy looking. Hold it up to both lights. Yeah, the clarity is through the roof. I'll just do it for the sake of doing it, but you can kind of see the shadow of my hand. You can't probably make out any individual finger, but for the most part, I would say they look pretty much identical from a clarity standpoint. But yeah, this is definitely darker, this is lighter. So what I expect that, I don't know. I'm gonna leave these turned to you so you don't see the logo of the glass. I do have #proper glassware for Southern Tier beers, but I have one glass, not two. So I just went with Tiku's. I wanted to kind of make sure that both shapes of the glass and everything they're on a level playing field. Let's just say that. So I didn't want one to be different than the other. So anyway, let's get a nose. Yeah, that's right there is the definition of an old school American IPA. It's bready, a little bit of caramel. I'd say more of like a grapefruit zest, grapefruit pith, a little bit of orange, resinous pine, floral, maybe a touch of like a nondescript like stone fruit to me, like an underripened like apricot, somewhat grassy. Yeah, I mean, that smells like I've traveled back to 2012 and I'm drinking an IPA. That's what that is. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what that is. Let's get a nose on the 2X. Okay. So this one, a little less of that like piney kind of resinous quality in the nose and a little bit more fruit forward. So citrus for sure, grapefruit, orange. But in addition to like a generic stone fruit, I'm getting a touch of like pineapple here. Yeah, pineapple for sure, like slightly underripened to almost ripened pineapple. This, believe it or not, I think the caramel, which is crazy just based on the looks, but the caramel in this one seems to be a little bit more prominent like than the bready aspect, where I'm getting more like of like a white bread in here with like some caramel hints. This has more caramel with a little bit of white bread, which is crazy. Like I said, you look at the two color-wise, I think it would be the opposite. Neither of them smell boozy, 7%, 8.2, no. Yeah, they both smell really nice, old school in nature. I want to get into it. Cheers, everyone. It's exactly what I remember. The one reason why I feel like I've never been over the moon for Southern Tier IPA specifically is on the palate, it drinks more like, I forget when you're going to see these, but the other day, I think it was 2 days ago, I just got done reviewing Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and you'll see that review before this. This drinks like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, but even with a little bit less flavor, if I'm just being honest with you. Like that beer had more of like the West Coast kind of pale ale, I should just say, American pale ale vibe, but it had little, like the grapefruit, the breadiness, the pine, everything. This is like you took that and stripped it away. That's 5.6%. That's a classic. That's a craft beer classic. And this is kind of in that realm of 7%. Now, if you're somebody who likes bigger ABV beers that drink lower, then this would be for you, because this is not drink like it's 7%. This drinks like it's like 5 to 5.5. Body's like medium body. The mouthfeel, it's crisp. It's a pretty clean beer. Effervescent, so like a moderate carbonation, touch over, smooth on the palate. It's just the flavor profile. I've always found this one to be a little bit lacking for my own personal preference. I know a lot of people who love this beer or like, have bought it over the years and enjoy it. Forefront, it's that white grapefruit like pith. Don't love that. It's fine, but only if there's something else with it, because underneath it is like this bready caramel malt character. Dives underneath the palate. It's with you the entire way. It's omnipresent, never steps in the way, but it's like white grapefruit pith, a little bit of like an orange rind. Then as it passes through, I get a touch of that like underripened apricot or maybe like a nectarine or something. And then it instantly transitions into a more of a floral resinous kind of quality. It's not as pine heavy as I remember this being, but also as you would think it would be for being an old school American IPA. Definitely bitter though. It's moderately bitter, approaching moderately bitter. It's semi to full on dry. This doesn't have a lot of like residual sweetness. It's more about the bitterness and the dryness, which is fine. But another reason why I don't love it, like I don't love overly bitter and dry beers if they're both. Like I can handle like a super bitter beer or a super dry beer, but when they're kind of in conjunction, they kind of dwarf all of like the malt goodness I get, and kind of everything else on the palate becomes a secondary or worse player. In this aspect, and in this beer specifically, that's kind of what's happening. Like on the back of the palate, it's a little bit too dry and bitter for me to really love it. Not bad. It's just, if this said, if this was Southern Tier's APA, American Pale Ale, and it was 5.5%, I would be much more in line with enjoying that one. As is, I find it solid and decent. That's like the best I can say for that one. Now, let's get into the 2X IPA. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, that's much more. And again, this is only 12 days fresher than the IPA, but this has more overall characteristics in general, but the hop characters more in the realm of where I want it to be. It's 1.2% higher. They call it double IPA, which it is, right? Or an imperial IPA. But it's not much bigger than this a 7% IPA, but it drinks much bigger. Like I said, this drinks like it's 5.5. This drinks like it's 8. So it drinks like it's 2.5, 3% bigger instead of 1.2. Body's a bit over medium, maybe higher side of medium, so right in the realm of 8.2%. The mouthfeel, very much like this one, moderately carbonated, effervescent, crisp and clean, but the smoothness is a little bit more so than this. Like, it's a little bit easier and smoother on the palate, especially on the finish. But not enough to say like it's significantly better from a body and mouthfeel perspective. Definitely a body perspective, it's better. Mouthfeel, kind of similar, slightly better. The taste, though, it follows suit to this one. It has a little bit more of a bready caramel, more so than caramel malt character, kind of like this one. So in the nose, I was getting more caramel than bread here, but now in the taste, it's kind of flipped. So very similar to this in terms of the malt character. Maybe a little bit even more bready when this one dives underneath the palate. First thing I get on the palate, though, was like a little bit of like a juicy orange and like a ruby red grapefruit. So it's a little bit juicier, a little bit slightly sweeter feeling at the front of the palate. As it passes through, I get a nice pop of like a pineapple. That's I would say pineapple more so than anything. And then on the finish, it has a piney, floral, resinous bitterness. It's moderately bitter. It's dry, but not like full-on dry like this. So I think it being a little bit bigger, more malt, higher ABV, it doesn't have as much bitterness and dryness. I think there's more malt character to kind of balance it out. Still leans bitter and dry, just not to this extent. This is much more dry and bitter than this, at least in my opinion. They both drink from an ABV perspective lower than what you're getting. This, like I said, if I'm doing a blind, I would think that's like a 5.5% American Pale Ale. Doing this blind, I would think this is like, I'd say more like a 6.5%. I feel like this beer is equivalent to this in terms of ABV. I would say like 7% for this, even though it's 8.2. So they both hide the alcohol well. But this specifically, the IPA itself drinks way lower than the ABV, and not even like a real American IPA, in my opinion, where the 2X kind of drinks in the wheelhouse of a double IPA. So again, clear preference to the 2X IPA. Now, rating. Well, glad you asked about the rating. So we're going to give this beer right here, the IPA from Southern Tier. I'm going to give this beer... I'm going to give this a high 3.5. I'll go 3.55. I usually give this around 3.5. We'll go a little bit slightly higher, but for what reason, I have no idea. Just feeling a 3.55. So Southern Tier's IPA, 3.55. I think that's a very fair score for what I'm drinking. As is, whatever. You know what I mean? So 3.55 for the Southern Tier IPA. Meanwhile, the Southern Tier 2X IPA, I'm going to give this a low 4. I'm going to go 3.9. So a little bit lower than the 4 I gave it, but on tap. But I would say I always gave this one like a lower 4, just in my mind. On tap, it's 0.25, although now I have Insider, thanks to a friend of mine who gifted it to me when it was on sale, that I can do the points. So I would put this in at 3.9. So I give this a 3.9, that's a 3.5. I think that's fair for where these kind of beers land for me. Price point and availability. 6 packs of the IPA, $10.99 here in the Buffalo, New York area. And the 2X IPA, as I almost break my knuckles, is $1 more, $11.99. I would take this all day, every day. For a buck more, 1.2% alcohol higher, I would take the double IPA all day long. So, how are we looking in terms of... Let me look right here. A cuvee. I think we're looking pretty good. So, I'm going to do the cuvee here. Price point availability, I forgot. Availability. It's Southern Tier. If you get Southern Tier, you should see these two. They come in 6 packs. I think they come in 12 packs. Some of the variety packs from Southern Tier, you'll see them. I would say try them both out if you've never had them before, but the 2X is the way to go in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a pour here into the 2X. And then we're going to go back for one more into this. Is this an exact science? It is not. But it's something fun to do. All right. So, we now have a beer that definitely looks more like that IPA. And the clarity is much better. I don't know if you're going to be able to see my whole hand through it, but definitely more of a shadow as the condensation kind of goes. 2 fingers of like a velvety, like nitro-esque head. That's from just mixing them up, I think. But yeah, kind of looks like that beer more so than the 2X. Nose. I'll cleanse the palate. Cleansing the palate for a fucking cuvee is wild. Kind of just smells like the IPA. Caramel bread, zesty, rindy citrus, pithy citrus, a little bit of like a stone fruit, piney floral. Yeah, I mean, it smells pretty good. Let's get into it. Cheers. I like that more than the IPA, but not as much as a 2X. It kind of takes everything in that and just dumps it down a little bit. And I think it adds a little bit more of like a, little more of a malt character for some reason. Yeah, not bad. I'd give the cuvee like a 3.7. I think it's kind of like smack dab in the middle or close to it from both beers. Yeah, nice. So 2X IPA, cuvee IPA. So that does it for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. I'm very happy I was able to do this one. Both of these beers, like I said, iconic here in the Western New York area. You know, Southern Tier has been around for a long time. And Southern Tier, you know, I don't give them as much credit as Saranac and Samuel Adams for like helping me understand what craft beer is, because I would buy a lot of variety packs from Saranac and Sam Adams, but I also would try out a bunch of different beers from Southern Tier because I usually could get singles of them. And I tried a bunch of different beers from them from like late 09, you know, until now, but like a lot in the early goings from like 09 to like 2013, 14. I would try everything they would release, classics, the whole nine. And I've always enjoyed their beers. They've never been like my favorite, most of them, you know, some of the specialties and whatnot. But beers like this have never been my favorite, but like I would happily and easily drink a 2X IPA. Their regular IPA, I don't think I would really reach for it as much as a lot of their other offerings. Again, it just drinks a lot lighter than what I'm looking for out of an IPA. So anyway, if you've had either of these beers or both of these beers, please post in the comment section. Let me know if you ever did a side-by-side like this. Southern Tier has so many different IPAs now, you know, kind of lose track, but these are two of the classics from them. Their IPA, I think, has been around for like 20 years, and their 2X IPA for like 15. So definitely beers that have been around for a long time. So another comparison beer review in the books. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review. And until the next one, cheers.